Good evening. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. This is my first time speaking to a group on this scale, and because I believe in being honest, I'm a little bit nervous. But most of that, to tell you the truth, just comes from being excited because I'm so passionate about this place and all of the people here, and I'm just thrilled that I get to share this story with you. Well, first of all, I want to tell you about this idea that I have. It's the basis for my pursuit of a career in counseling, and even more importantly, it's an essential part of my personal ethics. And that idea is that everyone has a story worth hearing. What makes each person's story special is the unique combination of experiences that have never and will never be replicated by anyone else, ever. And so, since we're here today to celebrate this college and all of these people who helped make it what it is, I'd like to share my own Lindsey Wilson story with you. So, we should go back to the beginning, and we should rewind to March 2005. I was a soon-to-be high school graduate, and I was searching for my perfect college. And I had a lot of options, but no real decision just yet. Well, one afternoon, I received a postcard from this little college that I had never heard of before. And it invited me to apply, and also to compete for a full academic scholarship. And would you believe I almost put it aside? I don't know what I was thinking either. But, you know, I was in my last stages of my high school career, and I was ready to have my college search finished. And Transy and Center were good schools. They were good enough. But, luckily, thanks to some gentle nudging from my parents, thanks Mom and Dad, and also the realization that I had absolutely nothing to lose, I decided to apply after all. And so, a couple weeks later, my dad and I made the first of many, many, many trips from Lexington to Columbia. And for those of you who haven't attended Scholars Day before, there's a proud and long-standing tradition of inclement weather. Rain, ice, snow, hail, sleet, you name it, it's happened. But that was no exception on my Scholars Day, but all the same, we were there. And you know how dreary days do tend to put a damper on things. But not even that could stop the energy and the passion that was going on this little campus. And before I knew it, I was getting caught up too in all of the excitement over this place that I never even knew existed 2 weeks before. And so, by the end of the day, I had this wonderful day filled with amazing food and interviews and meeting interesting people and learning what Lindsey Wilson is all about. And by the end of that day, I'd come to 3 important conclusions about Lindsey Wilson College. Number 1. Its dining centers offered the best rolls in the state of Kentucky. And I just want you to know that even after eating them for 4 years, that opinion holds true. Secondly, its sense of community was simply unmatched. I heard it in people's voices when they asked about one another, and I saw it in their kind and easy smiles. And I remember thinking on the way home that Lindsey Wilson could be pretty accurately described by the Cheers theme song. Most of you probably remember it, right? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And third, and most importantly, I would be attending Lindsey Wilson College in the fall, regardless of whether I received the Bailey Scholarship. And so, after all of that trouble, I finally found my perfect school, my best match. And that was reason enough for happiness and excitement. I was so ready for fall. And so you can imagine my reaction when I received the news that, to top it all off, I had been chosen as a Bailey Scholar. According to my parents, my head hit the ceiling. I apologize for any damage. And thus began my adventure, and there's really no better word to describe that. Now, my biggest challenge in composing this speech was figuring out a way in which I could fit 4 years of stories into 15 minutes. And that's simple. I can't do it. It's not possible. But if I could, I'd like to touch on some of the highlights of my undergraduate experience, just to give you an idea of the unique opportunities that Lindsey Wilson has afforded me in my time here. At that first Scholars Day, a graduate student, now one of my dearest friends, gave an hour out of her busy day to tell me all about the Lindsey Wilson College School of Professional Counseling. True to everything else that happened that day, something just clicked. I had never heard of another program that aligned so closely with my aspirations, with my personal ethics. And in the fall, I declared my major the minute I set foot on campus and have never looked back. In my time here, I've learned to be a better listener. I've learned that in helping others, I too can grow and change for good. I've striven to become the very best version of myself, personally and professionally, and I've done it all under one of the top counseling programs in the entire country. My education has stretched far beyond the classroom, and you wouldn't believe the places I've been and the things I've done and seen in 4 short years. I've hammered and painted with Habitat for Humanity. I've been dazzled by Broadway shows and rocked to sleep on the subway. I've thrown snowballs into the Grand Canyon. I've served as class president. I've watched the sunset over the Pacific Ocean. I've listened to symphonies and concert halls and jazz in the streets of New Orleans. I've helped to organize professional conferences. I've written poetry and plays. I've cared for homeless dogs at the Green River Animal Shelter. I've been a counselor at a camp for children coping with life-threatening illnesses. And most infamously, I told Elise Lucky the other day, I couldn't promise I wouldn't tell this story. It's just too good. And so at the risk of my pride, I'll tell you that in my freshman year, during our trip to San Francisco, I was so taken with the beauty of Alcatraz Island, I just about missed the last boat of the day back to San Francisco. And I hadn't planned to include this originally, but my mom the other night made a great point, and I thought I should include that. This past weekend, I helped to organize and run the Kentucky Mental Health Counselors Association conference. And towards the end of the conference, I sent her a text message and said, "Mom, this is the best conference ever." And so a couple nights later, she called and she said, "You know, I was thinking about that text that you sent, and I've gotten one pretty similar to that an awful lot of times since you've been at Lindsey Wilson. How many best days ever could a person have, or best experiences ever?" And the answer I want to tell you is this: we had a lot. And, you know, while all of this is going on, I've seen my school flourish right before my eyes. And do you know how exciting and how refreshing it is to be in a climate of constant change? I mean, when I came here as a freshman, our beautiful Fugue Science Center wasn't so much as a hole in the ground yet, just an idea. But now, just look at all that's coming to fruition. We have new areas of study, we have new facilities, we have a doctoral program in the works. And as I've worked, as I said, to become the best version of myself, I've watched Lindsey Wilson strive for the very same thing. We can always, always be better. There's no room for complacency here, and I like that. And I've saved the best for last, because I want to take a few minutes to talk about the people of Lindsey Wilson. Its students, its faculty, all of its friends. Because the people are what give this story meaning and context. For example, all of you here today, all of you friends of the college, just there's so much love in this room for this little place. And I think about these friends that I've gained in my time here, easily the truest friends I've ever had in my 22 years. I have a professor who keeps a $20 bill in his back pocket in case a student needs money for food or for gas. And Bill and Elisa, it means something to you that you always have your fog light on. And it's because of the people and their good hearts and their ethical sensibilities that I came to Lindsey Wilson, and that's why I hold so much love for this place. That's the investment that you're making. It's in all of the people. So in closing, I'd like to share with you a quote from Carl Rogers, a great mind in the counseling field. He once said, "When I look at the world, I'm pessimistic, but when I look at people, I'm optimistic." Few would argue that often life is very hard. Every day we hear these dismal stories on the news of war and strife, and we hear these blanket accusations about human nature and how people are innately cruel and hateful. But I challenge that notion with my experience. I've learned here that people love and give freely. I've learned that people will go to the ends of the earth to be of help to someone else. My time here at Lindsey Wilson has reaffirmed my lifelong belief in the goodness that lies within every person, and this knowledge outweighs everything else that I've gained here. We all know Lindsey Wilson's core value, every student, every day. Well, I can't speak for every student every day, but I can speak for this student today, and I can tell you that Lindsey Wilson was and is my perfect college. And I thank you for your kindness and for your generosity in all that you do, and I hope that in talking today I've been able to give you at least a small idea of what Lindsey Wilson has come to mean to me over these few years. Here's one more thing. It's surreal to think that in 2 weeks' time, tomorrow, I'll be a college graduate. But I'm so happy to say that I'm not going to have to miss Lindsey Wilson next year, because I love it here so much I've decided to continue my education with the School of Professional Counseling, where I will work as a graduate assistant. And I'm thrilled for the opportunity to experience life at Lindsey Wilson in a new capacity, and I look forward to getting back to the place and the people that have made my story such a happy one. And to say the least, I'm honored. And I'll also say this. I'm glad that you all want me to stick around a little longer, because if you didn't, you might have had to leave me at Alcatraz. Thank you so, so much.